we go. So, hello
Hello from Croatia.
from Croatia. Okay, so to start off with, would you like to say your name and exactly where you are?
I'm Irena Bezic and I'm in Zagreb. Zagreb is the main town in Croatia.
Hmm.
And sorry, I would just like to see your eyes. Now that's better.
Oh, okay,
There was this
perfect.
meeting is being recorded. Okay.
Okay, so the first question is, who are you as a person, as a human being? And that can be anything about you that you would like to share. Your values, your passions, qualities about yourself, whatever you'd like.
So I think it's important that I'm here in Croatia, in this part of Europe, which is a bit special like any other special parts of any country, but it is important that I grew up after the Second World War in the socialistic country and in the family which was not the communist family, so we didn't fit in the society at that moment. And then another point was my family was mixed, two nations mixed for 3 generations. So we were used on this mixture of culture, but the country was not. And this continued. This continued through the socialistic times. We didn't fit proper. And then when the war came, we had this war, Balkan War, between the nations, and it repeated everything again, um, in the sense that the differences matter and it could be very dangerous to be different. So in these times, it is again the same thing. Now it is not the communist and Yugoslav nationality to be the good one, but now it's the Croat and the Catholic. But in the sense of being different is always difficult. So this was followed me through my life. So I think I have a passion about the contact in a sense being different and being free to connect, because in my life it is always, if you are not different, then it is logical that you are connecting with the group you belong to,
Mhm.
and if you are different, you are alone. So this possibility to connect freely with the people you like to connect, this is something which I found in Gestalt and in the Gestalt community. So this respect for the contact and respect for building relationships, building dialogues, this is what I'm really passionate about.
Oh, okay. And
And yeah, so I think I did a lot in this sense because I liked, so for long years, Jadran Morovic, a colleague of mine, and me, we were working to connect different psychotherapy schools in Croatia, and we did succeed. And after that, we were working on the establishing a law on psychotherapy in Croatia, and we succeeded. And I'm also working in the European Association of Psychotherapists because I just love this free coming together of people who are allowed to be and who take for themselves a possibility to be individuals and connected to other very different people from all around the world.
hmm,
That's my
okay.
passion.
I can tell. That's
Yeah, and
lovely.
I learned my children these values and my students in the Gestalt education. So
Hmm.
it is true.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's
so
another
I'm
thing which,
wondering. Go
yes,
ahead.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, go ahead.
No,
Well,
there's another thing. It is about more about this dialogue, the quality of the dialogue.
mhm,
I like this. I mean, that's perhaps I like the existential dialogue. So I started very early working with the cancer patients, working with the heavy disabled of families with the handicapped members, and I worked a lot with the war trauma and traumatized people.
mhm,
And so all on the edge of the existence. So somehow this is another thing which I'm drawn to. And now I don't do this the last 20 years. And I think now I can feel this kind of dialogue and this kind of contact in everyday life, which is enriching and tells me that I'm now a little bit more mature than I was at the beginning.
Hmm,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. So I'm wondering about a specific moment in your own life, or a
Mhm.
story, or a set of circumstances that you would say really defined or influenced who you are in some way.
So about this, what I was talking about, I can tell you a lot of stories from my family life where I discovered what it means being different and still staying in contact. When I was very little, I went to the market with my grandmother, and we were passing the building where there was a library where my mother was working. My mother was Slovenian, and the language is Croatian in Croatia. So this is not, I mean, for you won't be such a big difference, but it is a big difference in this part of the world. Anyhow, I was shouting to my mother to the window, and of course Slovenian, because I was talking Slovenian to her. And then I realized this is not good. This is not really nice. And I knew I have to keep one part of my identity is for home, and the other part is for outside. And this
Hmm.
was similar when I was later. I was taking care about nephews, not my cousins, in they because they were living in Austria, and I was talking with them Slovenian. But also when we were in tram, and they were little, they were about 7 or 8. I was 11 or 12, and they told me, no, this language is not good in a tram. Let's talk German.
Ah.
So I learned very early to be careful, and I think that was the beginning. And another thing was when I was studying, I did a part of my studies I did in Germany, and the Germany was, I mean, not very popular in after the World War and so on. But then when I came there, I decided to start as if this is a new world, and I'm starting with 20 something uh, different. I start a world which I am creating myself.
Hmm.
And I had a very good experiences. I met very nice people, and also international community where I felt accepted. And this repeated often in my life, that I was very good accepted in international community. So I just like to be to be with the people from around. And I'm living all my life in Croatia because I love the country as well. So this is always this two parts, this polarity about belonging and being autonomous, and this is, I think, important.
Mhm. Yeah, and the difference and the shame and the not shame and
Yes, yes, exactly. This is always a part which makes you vulnerable,
hmm
to be to stick to the individuality, and having a need for the belonging and contact.
hmm
But when this is fulfilled, and when I have the experience that I am accepted as I am, this is wow, very nice experience. And then it is a feeling that there is like in the whole world there are people who understand that, and where you I can create this feeling of belonging wherever I am, if the circumstances allow that.
hmm
That's good.
What happens with you on the other side of that when you meet not only non-acceptance, but war trauma? I mean, how do you experience that level of conflict and difference?
Yeah. War trauma is a very specific thing, and especially if you have a war trauma like we had it, which means there is not an enemy who is black or yellow or with uh, looking very different, but it was a war here where you can speak the same language with the enemy, and uh, where the people, you cannot see what is really enemy and why is the enemy, because that was not enemy a year ago and then suddenly it became enemy, or the enemy is just because of my name, just because of my nation. So this was one side of it, and what helped was being together, those who could be together to stay together. And it was a very big resource for standing the war, to not be alone, to be together with the people, to have fun, to have uh, to have fun in the sense to have a good humor,
Hmm.
mostly black humor, to survive this quite very existentially difficult situations. Um, in the war, I didn't want, I always imagined before, because before, especially in the socialistic Yugoslavia, we had a lot of the films, about the partisans fighting Germans and so on. So I always thought, what would be if I would be born in the Second World War? How I would deal with that, how it is possible that so many people are not doing anything and so on. And then it happened to me to be a part of the war. And I knew that I have to be active. If I just stay, it would be very difficult for me. It was for me, it was more, um, it was not a way to survive, and it was to be active and to help and to go and to invest all my capabilities of organizing, talking to the people from in very difficult circumstances. So I did it. I did it 10 years, so it was long.
Mm.
Yeah. And I always said at the beginning of when I'm a psychologist, so when I start working, I worked, my first working place was in the rehabilitation center with the handicapped children and families. And when I finished my studies, I said I will never work with the children with intellectual difficulties, and I will never work with the rape and with the sexual insults. And then you can imagine I worked quite a lot in my life exactly with these groups, because
Hmm.
they just came to me. So, and it was, I had the feeling the help is needed. And it was for me good to be there. And somehow I was, as I told you, I like this. I like this existential point where the people meet in spite of their roles in the normal life, in spite of a lot of other norms or conventions or whatever. When there is an existential situation, there is a meeting of two persons pure. So this helped me to go through all this and to work with a lot of difficult situations.
Mm. And I'm wondering who you have met in your life who has helped you or influenced you in some way. What other people?
Oh, so I met a lot of people, but talking about the Gestalt community, let's say in the war, I met Willy Butolo. He was a professor on the Munich University, and he came and we went to, in the war parts of Bosnia, and did, let's say, Gestalt workshops. I mean, not the pure Gestalt, but he was a Gestalt therapist and I was a Gestalt therapist, so we did it together. And this was very nice, and it was liberating that we could work Gestalt in such circumstances. This was good.
Mm-hmm.
And another very important meeting was with Lynn Jacobs, because I was teaching for long years her theories. And as you know, if somebody is writing good, they are mostly dead people, isn't it? So I was never talking about meeting somebody of the very good people who are writing very good theory. And then she
Lynn is
had a
still very
workshop.
much alive.
She is very much alive, yes. And she had a workshop in Zagreb once, and I came to this workshop and I saw her working, and I had a feeling I'm at home. This is it. This is again somebody in the world who is actually near me or my worldview. Um, and it was really profound experience. And then I start connecting with the people from the Pacific Gestalt Institute and met their international community. And this is exactly what I was looking for. This is again, this international people having very similar values or having interest for each other. And just interest in meeting and letting the other to be what they are. So that was good. That was also important part.
So, a bit more about yourself. I'm
Mhm.
wondering how you understand and experience and live yourself within your gender or as a woman.
Mhm. So I was always more being a person. It was more for me. It was always more important being a person than the woman, or fighting for the women rights, or always being so explicit what is feminine and what is masculine.
Hmm.
For me, it was during my whole life, I was going um, different ways. Let's say I didn't like this or typical that, as my whole story is like this. Um, I didn't like the roles which are given to the women. So I was fighting for my way of being a woman, and um, I'm still living my way of being a woman. And I like a lot of things about being a woman. I think it's a body, it's a good body. You can have children, and you can there is a slight way through the life as a woman. I think it's more not more easy, but it's more fluid. I think. Although I know a lot of men who are very in the same flow, which is, let's say, more typically for women. But I don't know what is more typical. I think that's why I think the men and the women, they have this animus anima parts. So
Hmm.
you're living a little bit of this and living a little bit of that. So that's more my view of uh,
Hmm.
this gender stuff. I'm for freedom of whatever you want, whatever woman or a man you want to be, you should be. So it's something which I think or for me, it is the freedom of being whatever you want to be. It's the important part.
And what about your age? How are you experiencing age?
Oh, I'm 60 now. I'm 60, so it is. I feel now that I'm older. I had a workshop last weekend, and with Jadran, and we had the last workshop of after 25 years having education in Gestalt therapy. So this was the last workshop of us bringing one generation to the end. So it is. Then I see there are people who have this age and are starting Gestalt therapy education, and we are for such a long time in the field. So I'm on one side, I'm aware of this age because I have to slow down with the working. I, I can't work as much as I would like. I always like to do a lot. You like the day has 24 hours and there is a night as well. So something like this that I'm, um, and I realized that with the age, I'm more uh, willing or more prepared to work in the garden and to spend time which is more just time. It is not working and discovering and learning and um, collecting knowledge and connections and contacts. It is also this part of being in this what is with hopefully nice nature around me. So it was quite terrible when they closed us down because of this corona. That was heavy. So not to be able to go out, not to be able to be with other people. So I'm still suffering. The pandemic goes on, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully not so long
Mm-hmm.
anymore.
Hmm. So I'm also wondering how you understand privilege and power in your life.
Hmm. Oh, this is a good theme. I think we are all privileged who can have a warm, like here, it's a nice warm office, and we are talking to each other uh, through the thousands and thousands kilometer away, and we have a language to talk to each other. We are not worrying what we will eat today. So I think I'm privileged and I am confronted with this very much because there is an hour ago from Zagreb, there is an area which was heavily affected by the earthquake a month
Mm-hmm.
ago. And they are living in a very different circumstances now in the moment. They really um, are, are fighting to be warm, are fighting not to lose the cow. So very difficult. And then if you go 100 kilometers further on, it's the border of Bosnia, where there are immigrants
Mm-hmm.
who are camping there. It is snowing outside. They paid whatever they could to come to Europe. Now they are stopped there on the border in a really terrible circumstances. So if I think of this, then I am very privileged to live even under corona circumstances in this house, in this life, which gives me so many opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And
And
what about
power,
power?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is. I know. There is a anecdote from my life, and that was when I heard about this project. I searched for this person in the that's Marie and Kraus. You made an interview with her,
Mm-hmm.
and we had once 20 years ago. We had a meeting, and she was presenting unbelievable good in this perfect American way of perfect English, perfect way of presentation, and so on. And I told her then that I'm coming from this part of Europe, which has a different tradition, let's say. And it is for us, it's not so easy to make good structured speech where you just listen and you want to listen more. And then she said that she knows that there is a privilege, and that was so nice. So then we had a good conversation because she said it is a privilege. And I think to say that to be aware of this privilege is uh, it could be a power for the contact, yeah, and it could be misused as a power against people, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because if I'm privileged, then I can make rules.
Mhm.
And the others who are not privileged have to obey my rules. If they would like to have a little bit of this privileged world I am in. So to be aware of this, I think it's a great thing because it can encourage more contact and it can bring people together.
Mhm.
And to be aware of this privilege means also to be willing to give something from this privilege to the less privileged people, because they are born where they are born, in the circumstances in which they are born. This is not, it is random. I could be born there.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the power is in the awareness of the privilege.
Yes, that's right. The power is in the awareness. I agree.
Hmm. Okay. So, how did you first come to Gestalt therapy? How did you find it?
Ah, okay. First time it was when I was in Germany in this few years of my studying there, and we had an experiential part of our clinical psychology studies, and we had little groups, like experiential groups. And I was quite vulnerable at that time because I was new in this country and I was in the process of finding people and with whom I would be and not be and so on. And my trainer in this group was one of the professors who was in the training of Gestalt therapy. And so he used our group to train a little bit of the Gestalt techniques on us.
Mhm.
And I thought, this is great. This is really going to the core of the experience, and it is allowing contact, and it is allowing expression, and it's not threatening anybody. It is not pressing anything which the people don't want. So it was great. And then when I came back, there was a Gestalt group starting, and I thought, this is it. I have to see what it is. So I went through that. And so after having then few years of this was the Gestalt training by Mladen Kostic. So they are the trainers from Belgrade, Mladen and Nada Kostic. And they were trained by the Americans who came to Dubrovnik at the end of 70s. And they adopted in their group a little bit of the natives. So there were few people from Yugoslavia who participated, and they spread it afterwards. So then, after this few years of trying, I connected with the people, or they invited me. I don't know. You know how it is through
Mhm.
connections. Somebody invites you, and then you come. Um, and there was a man from Germany who had a workshop in Belgrade. He was invited. They were together at Polsters, and then he was invited to Belgrade. They went to Belgrade, saw him, and then we invited him to come. And Peter Töbe is his name. So he did a few workshops for us. I mean,
Mhm.
introduction to Gestalt again. And then we decided, okay, let's have now the proper education, because until then there was no proper education in
Mhm.
Gestalt. It was just workshops here and workshops there. And then he connected with the IGW, which is Institute for Gestalt Therapy Würzburg, and so the German Institute, who
Mhm.
then did the education here. So Peter Töbe and Viola Hartmann, they were my trainers at the education. And that was also the way to come into this institute, or the family of this institute. It's IGW. So now we are, or since 25 years, leading this education here under we are like a branch of this institute. We are independent institute in Zagreb. We are European accredited institute, but actually we belong to this IGW family, and it is nice because it's this program which is in Germany, in Switzerland, Austria, Italy, Croatia, Bolivia, Kenya. So there's a quite quite a family.
Hmm.
As yeah, I said before, I love being a part of family which I choose. So it's that's nice.
Hmm. Okay. And what is it that you would say you found in Gestalt?
What I found is the possibility to to be interested in myself, to be interested in the other, uh, to to be interested in everything, in the creative way of expressing who you are, in the it's like the entrance in this very rich world of every person, and it is through this dialogue and through these interventions, let's say also in Gestalt, being present, being on the spot, here and now. So being in this field, being in this field between two persons. Um, this was this was this is the main thing for me. And also, I before this I was trained in different psychotherapies, of course, and as every psychologist, you start with the cognitive behavior, then family therapy, and so on and so on. But it is the Gestalt is the place which connects everything. It has this integrative characteristic. That's what I like about it, and it is also inclusive. So um, sometimes I use some techniques from other therapies. It is more, I try to be with the person and see what is good for the person, and not to press everybody in the theoretically or some other dimensions or techniques. This is not so important. Important is to be with the person and to go with this person towards more awareness, of course. And it's like opening when this awareness is growing. It is like opening new perspectives, new worlds. It's so some kind of magic in this sense.
Hmm.
And so starting as a clinical psychologist and doing a lot of doing research and everything, it is, I think, quite a step to be
Hmm.
fascinated by the persons themselves and about the power of every individual to find their own ways and to help them and
Hmm.
to give the space to the people, taking care about own narcissism and all ideas and own analytic whatever.
Hmm.
This is really nice and a challenge for me to believe that there is a way and that the person will find a way, that it is not, for me it's a big value that the people take their own responsibility for their own lives, and
Hmm.
that I'm not there to show them the way, but that I'm there to accompany people, to be really to be company in on this discovery, and
Hmm.
not to overstep. Although sometimes people would like it, people would like to say, give the hand, so now take me. And I think the challenge is not to do so, but just to be there and accompany somebody on the towards more awareness and towards more being.
And so, how has all of this Gestalt affected you as a person?
It had on me the same effect as I'm hoping um, I do it with other people. So I became I became aware of all this what I was telling to you. I became
Hmm.
aware of my needs for this freedom and my needs for the free connecting, and I I became aware of all this, what shaped my life from the negative part, of course, and uh, that I had a lot to work with these roles and with everything what is the polarity of this, what I was telling you, and how, and also I could I could go on with my creativity and enjoy it, share it with other people. Um, so I think I became more aware of who I am and of this, that what I'm producing, there is something which can go out and I can share it with the world, and it is okay. I
Mhm.
don't have to know everything before I do something. I think this is a big thing which I learned. I had a feeling I have to know everything before. And yeah, that's, I think
Hmm.
this is the main thing.
Mhm. And what would you
Um,
say are some of the most significant challenges? You mentioned a couple just now, but
yes, um, there was a lot of challenges, let's say. So one of the challenges is that is this going into contact. I'm nature. This is interesting. I love contact and I need people and I use possibilities. And on the other side, I'm I'm alone in the nature, and when I'm alone, I really feel good. So this balance between what I need, I think the awareness of this, what I need, is also something which I learned from Gestalt. And to
hmm,
be okay with this, what I need. This is also thing to learn.
mhm, that's interesting. I'm just sitting with that. I try not to jump in too much and talk over what you're saying, but just with all of the potential work you could be doing, I mean, you could be saving nations from more trauma, and it's okay to be in your
Yeah.
garden and
Yes, yes.
know
For
that that's
example,
okay.
one of the challenges when I was young, when I was quite young, I was leading here the psychosocial program for Croatia and Slovenia in the war
Mhm,
in UNICEF. So I was working for United Nations, yeah, and I was working on this all these projects, trauma, and I was organizing, I was working in it, and so on, and I was good. I mean, I was good. So after this, they wanted me to go to Rwanda because this war opened there, and I was specialist. So let's have it. So something like this. And as I told you before, for me, it is a great thing to be in this international company. It just feels good.
mhm.
At that time, I had two little children.
Oh,
So this was, I decided this is not possible. So I'm not going. I don't want this international career, let's say. I want to stay with my children. I want to stay here. And at that time, it was also this is the war I want to work on. It is
mhm,
here. I'm not going around the world working in the wars of the world. This is too much for me.
mm,
But for the moment, it was a little challenge. It is nice to be, wow, you're so good. Now you can go to Rwanda. So there are some challenges of this kind. I had I had several occasions in my life when I had an offer to move in some other direction.
mhm,
And I think it is also Gestalt who through which I knew that this what I choose is the best thing. That I have my private practice and I'm working a lot with the different people. I'm teaching, I'm doing supervision, I'm in different fields, not just Gestalt. And it is exactly how I want it to be. Don't have a boss, for example. This is the challenge, which has said I can have it without, then I'm not in the part of the hierarchy, but I like it like this.
mhm,
So, um, yeah.
hmm.
And it is good to go to the garden and work in the garden and not
Yeah,
save
because if
the
lots and lots and
mankind.
lots of contact and some withdrawal is okay too.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Hmm.
this is the part. Yes. Mhm.
So what you've said, the institutional family that you're part of. Do you consider yourself part of a Gestalt community? Is
Yes,
that, yeah?
yes, I do.
What does that mean for you?
Gestalt community. I can, when I meet with the people in other countries who are Gestalt people, I feel connected, and it comes very spontaneously. Of course, the people are like this and like that. So of course there are people who are Gestalt, but I don't feel connected with. But it is something like over. Um, it is like a cloud. Let's say it is for me. This Gestalt community is like a cloud. When you come into the cloud, then you feel this in the cloud. It's wet, but when we are in the Gestalt community, there is a special atmosphere around Gestalt, which I like. I
Hmm.
like it. It is, if I go to the Congress of Family Therapists, or if I go to the Congress of Psychologists, or other kinds of congresses, Gestalt people are always very lively, and they are willing to do this and that, and spontaneous. They're all they're all stereotypes about Gestalt people, but there is something on it.
Well, there
There's a
is. I
lot of
mean,
life in the
yeah,
Gestalt
they agree to
community,
do interviews with strangers on the
for
internet, for
example.
example.
Yeah.
Mm,
So I like this liveliness of the Gestalt community. Yes.
hmm, okay. And what comes to mind as some of the highlights, some of those peak moments for you, either in your practice, in your work as a therapist, or as even as a client,
Mhm.
just some moments that stick with you?
There are a lot. There are a lot. It is always a highlight when I see that there is something. There is a life and going between us. And I had this workshop now, this last workshop of the generation. And when the people in this workshop say it changed my life, or it was very important for me, and you see this is true. And I remember how these people were fighting for this being themselves through the years. That's nice about the educational groups. You have 4 years to see development, and I don't know. Sometimes it's difficult to believe that there will be development at the beginning, but then it just goes on, and you can see it how this works. Or in the individual work with the people, sometimes things happen which are not expected at all. Sometimes people make steps which really change the perspective. There's some, so I like to see life, um, the developing in front of my eyes when I work in Gestalt therapy men.
Hmm.
Highlights. I mean, it is 25 years, so could be I can remember the highlights of the last week approximately.
Hmm.
But there is a lot. I'm always fascinating how little things can change big things. That's
Hmm.
how one sentence can move something. When I hear a sentence which has an impact on me, how this stays for a while and then disappears, but it makes some chemical change. And
Hmm.
sometimes people come and, you told me 10 years ago, blah, blah, blah. And it's, aha, interesting. So sometimes there is an impact which one person has on the other, which can change, which can move. So it's proves that it is important to take something from outside in order to make make a step, not to just think and wonder and wait
Hmm.
that things will change, but really to move. You need something to come in contact with, to integrate,
It
and
almost
then to
proves that Gestalt theory.
yes, exactly. I'm quite convinced about this Gestalt theory.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of believe in it a bit myself, actually. So, yeah. So the
Yeah.
last thing that I want to ask you is what's next? What's next for you, and what do you think is next for Gestalt?
Hmm. Um, I think the Gestalt is moving in the direction of integration, of um, um, I mean, integration, and also being a part of the society, being a part of the social movements, and being concerned about what is happening in the politics in the world. I think Gestalt is too good to be just for the individual therapy and group therapy. It is something which can, and I lived through that, so I'm quite convinced on this, that the ideas of Gestalt can help in the politics and can help in the crisis situations. So this is something which I think this will go on in Gestalt. And I think Gestalt ideas can bring people more together, and perhaps it can even fight this superficial world which is coming uh, with this instant knowledge what the people have, and this connecting oneself with oneself, let's say, connecting to this, what I really need, what I am, what I have to say, what um, my person is something which I have to offer, and not all this little stuff which you can collect through many other informations. It is integrated in one person. That's something new. That's something what Gestalt is trying to help people to believe, that they have something to offer. So I think Gestalt has a great perspective in this new world. And what is for me, so considering my age,
Mhm.
I agreed to write in one book, because I'm not a big writer. I'm more
Hmm.
practitioner than a writer. And this is nice because young people came together and said, we will write a book about Gestalt. And they gave me about 3 chapters to write. So I think that's the next what I would do. And then perhaps I will do more writing. I don't know, we'll see. I love
Mhm.
Hannah Arendt philosophy, so perhaps to connect her with Gestalt, that would be also a challenge to do. And I
Hmm.
think I will continue working in the educational groups. I like it, as I said, to see development of the people, and I also like that we have here in the country good Gestalt therapists, and if I can contribute to this, I'm willing to do this as long as it gets.
Mhm.
I love working with the clients. I love working with the oncological patients, and so this is all what I will continue doing.
Hmm. So we'll know where to find you. If you're not there, you're in the garden.
Yes, and I will. Yes. Garden will go on for sure as long as I can.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
Hmm. So what else would you add? Is there anything that you think that I'm missing at this point?
No, no. I think you covered quite a lot of things. I don't know what. No, I think it's good. So good interview as it is.
Okay. Well, thank you. Is it okay if we leave it here then? I really,
Yes,
really
yes.
appreciate talking to you. You have an incredible energy. It's been really lovely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.